It's hard to describe it. There's a disconnect, without a doubt. There's a disconnect. The Jewish presence is just there. You know, it's in spirit perhaps, but it's very hard to feel that in a town that's essentially been wiped clean of Jews. My family was here, and there's some comfort in that, but there's nothing else that speaks to the presence that they had.
I wanted to do my father's town of Kalisz, and this year, for the first time, I had a chance to be escorted to Kalisz. Jewish memory and respect for the dead and for history are very important components of Jewish culture. But there are no Jews left to do that work in Kalisz, to preserve the memory of the 20,000 people that were once there that are no longer.
I had always heard very positive, happy stories from my father about pre-war Poland and his life in Rodom, and how his family was so loving, and then what it was like for Jewish life in Rodom, and I wanted to explore that.
Ten other family members joined me in Makov. The centerpiece of this trip was the school presentation to our family, and people came from New York, from California, from Pennsylvania, and from Boston to be here for this event. We didn't know what to expect. We went to the school where we were told the students would be very nervous. We were also nervous. We had some exercises that were designed to help people get acquainted. We then took a walking tour of the town and were shown the Jewish sites of the town, noting that Jews have been clearly obliterated from the map of Makov, a town that once had, I think, over 50% or around 50% Jews.
With just little to go on other than names, the kids took us not only on an incredible tour of Kalisz and the Jewish sections of Kalisz, but they found where my father lived, which I didn't know about. We saw the neighborhood he lived in, and then they presented me at the conclusion of the day with paperwork that included my father's birth certificate.
Document of birth, certificate of birth. The same in Russian. And you have
Thank you. So I was really quite moved by having this kind of, documentation, connection, and understanding the history of the town.
This is my second time with the School of Dialogue to Rodom. The first time was with a big group of students who opened my eyes to places in Rodom that when I had gone previously on my own, couldn't possibly know myself. And then this time was even more illuminating because they had even more places.
My grandmother was born in Makov. My grandfather's family came from the same area, and multiple relatives essentially had their origins in that town, but hardly a trace. The cemeteries had been desecrated, the tombstones had been used to pave roads, and the town reclaimed those and created a monument. Our walking tour culminated at that spot, a very appropriate place for it to stop.
There was a deep connection, but it was trying to perceive through my father's eyes what it might have been like, and also to understand what happened to his family, and also what happened to the Jews in the town, because I knew very little about the Kalisz story.
The School of Dialogue helps many of us reconnect with our roots and learn more about our towns that our families come from, because the quality of the meetings and everyone who works at the forum, they have a deep commitment to Judaism in spite of the fact that almost all of them are not Jewish.
It is so heartwarming to see people who are not Jewish go out of their way to preserve their history and understand the value of their history. Even though it may not be their direct history, there is an impact. And to know that if people like myself and other generations of Jews with a connection could feel welcome and come back and to visit these places and explore our history together, it's very moving to see in this day and age that there is tolerance, there's understanding, and a respect for, true respect for those heritages. So it was very moving to me.
American Jews have a bias against Poland. And I carried some of that with me, but I really didn't know what to expect. But the bias is that it's arguably the world's largest Jewish cemetery, and that there's anti-Semitism lurking around every corner. I hope that with time and education that could change.
Seeing young high school students be so not just engaged, they had a personal commitment to the Jewish life of their town, and not just the past life. They clearly want a connection with the present and the future.
Kids are inquisitive. Kids want to learn. So to me, it's very hopeful, and it speaks well of Poland that the kids are interested in doing it and the schools are interested in letting them do that. That's a model that can continue not just for Poland, but hopefully inspire other people in the world to do the same.
I think it's a wonderful program. They're trying to get the future leaders of Poland before more biases form, and I think that the more Jews come here, the better things will be. So I'm very hopeful about it.
My father would be very pleased and proud that he and his family and his friends have not been forgotten, and that there are people who are willing to preserve that.
The educational experience that you get with the Forum is really an experience you're not going to get in any other way. They have performed miracles.